Chapter 26 of Psychopomp Drive. Written by Janeen Leese-Taylor. Read aloud by SkyAsimaru. Chapter 26 Laughter and Silence. If he had been asked to draw a picture of what he thought the kingdom of Hades would look like, Finley Evans certainly wouldn't have drawn this. Surrounding a beautiful clear water lake, Hades was the perfect image of the afterlife. Trees and colorful plants grew in abundance, healthy and vibrant, and practically vibrating with insect life. Waterfalls lined the northernmost side, spilling water into the vast lake and scattering rainbows in the rising mist around it. Birds with exotic, colorful plumage moved from one tree to the next, singing songs that sounded suspiciously like pop music. A tiger raised its head from the water, licking the remnants from its lips as it studied him with wide, golden eyes. The other spirits made Finley feel a little overdressed, their skin bare and freckling in the false sunlight. He glanced around, searching for direction, but the only landmark he could see was the thick iron door that took him back the way that he had come. Sensing his arrival, an older man made his way towards him with his hands outstretched. Finley blushed and raised his line of sight as he stopped in front of him.
"Welcome," the man chirped warmly. "Do not be afraid."
"Not afraid," Finley replied. "Just, not sure where to look." The older spirit chuckled.
"It can take a while to get used to," he agreed. "Come, I can help you get settled in."
"No, that's all right," the Amorini continued, watching the birds in the trees above them. "I'm not here to stay. I'm looking for someone."
"Oh?"
The man's tone was questioning, interested.
"If you have family here, we will be happy to locate them for you."
"I'm actually looking to speak with a goddess," he explained. "Do you know where I can find Tacita?" When silence greeted him, he brought his green eyes down to examine the other spirit's face, surprised by the man's change in demeanor. He was frowning, his dark eyebrows tilted downward in two aggressive lines. Did I say something wrong?" Finley asked.
"We do not speak that name here," the spirit growled. "She brings only misery and ruin. Nothing good can come of an audience with her."
The cat spirit shook his head. "It's important," he pressed. "There are things happening in the world of the living, things that only she can help with."
"Find another way,"
the spirit guide snapped, twisting his body away from him.
"No one here is going to help you. I guarantee that."
Finley's dark ears lowered, his tail wrapping around his ankle. "Please," he emphasized. "I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important." When the spirit ignored him and began to walk back towards the lake, he rushed forward and took a hold of his arm. "I have someone back on the surface that I need to protect," he continued. "Only the goddess's magic can help us."
All right, the spirit conceded. "But I will only take you as far as her path. You can find the rest of the way yourself."
He screwed up his face in distaste.
"I won't risk her curse for any old sightseeing trips." Thank you,
Finley breathed, and released his hold on the man.
I do appreciate it. This is a lesson you best learn on your own,
the man grunted. The path to Dea Tacita's temple was high above the rest of the world, suspended in the air with magic Finley didn't quite understand or fully believe. The wooden slats of the bridge appeared to connect with nothing but air, the gaps between each point making his non-existent stomach drop into his shoes. Hugging the side of the gray and purple mountains, the path climbed up towards the level of the clouds, and, as the wood underfoot gave way to stone, the spirit guide pulled back from him with a shake of his head.
I won't put a single toe on that mountain,
he stated. Finley turned his head to examine the rest of the path, surprised to see that he was not alone. A figure stood by the gateway ahead, their back to him. A distinct black shape behind them resembled a tail from this distance.
Thank you for bringing me here,
the Amarini offered the other spirit.
I'm sorry for bothering you with this, but I promise you, there were no other options.
The spirit's expression softened.
We do strange things for the ones we love, he breathed. Best of luck to you, young one.
When the man had faded from view again, the Amarini continued onwards. The stone path crunched under his feet, the sensation taking him back to childhood days of exploration and adventure. Wild poppies grew out from beneath the stone, swaying in the breeze. Their bright red heads were like droplets of blood amongst the gray landscape, a reminder that the world he was seeing was only an illusion for the dead. Scrappy turned as Finley approached, a relieved smile stretching across their lips as they tilted their shades slightly downwards to take in his appearance.
Hecate's light! They exclaimed. Finally an extrovert arrives. I thought we were the only ones who made it. I was starting to worry about how we were going to carry the conversation up here.
Did you say we? Finley questioned.
Who else is up here with you?
A head spectre stuck his head out from one of the green shrubs, grinning wildly.
This world is made up of spells, he said. Feral soul magic. I'm trying to learn as much as I can.
Scrappy nodded in his direction.
Sensitives can replicate magic once they've seen it. Ghost Boy here has been trying to create poppies for the better part of an hour.
An hour? The silver-haired man repeated.
You guys really didn't want to go up there, huh?
Scrappy shook their head, dark eyes studying the pale man through the dark lenses.
We wanted to wait, see if anyone else made it through. You got here just in time. We were about to bite the bullet and leave.
What about the others? Finley questioned, watching as Spectre pulled himself from the shrubs and brushed the remnants from his dark clothes.
After what happened with States, there was no way the others were going to be able to let go and get through those challenges, Scrappy hummed thoughtfully. Spectre and I didn't know him as long as the others did, but it still hurts. I don't know. I guess that just made me more determined to get through here, you know?
The Amarini fidgeted with a small silver chain around their neck, a tiny musical note sparkling at the end of it. When the person raised their head again, the pain and sadness had been replaced with a steely look of determination.
Let's go get this spell, guys.
Feeling Spectre falling in next to them, Finley nodded his head.
Lead the way, Scraps. We're right here with you.
The Temple of Silence was a round-edged building, crafted with rows and rows of perfectly white, symmetrical columns and threads of hunter-green ivy and vivacious fuchsia plants. The top was painted with blues and greens of varying shades, the roof rising up to a singular point like a stone carousel. Tiny lights hung from the entranceway, twinkling like fireflies as they rocked in the wind. The door itself was tall and painted with beige, sealed tight from the inside. A large knocker rested just above head height, a skull holding a brass ring in its mouth. Scrappy raised a hand to take the ring, banging it against the heavy stone. The sound of the knock reverberated into the chambers within, making the cobwebs overhead shake. They stopped abruptly, eyes surveying the door for openings and handles, and they frowned when their search yielded no results.
I'm not entirely sure how this thing opens, they noted.
Finley leaned back to stare up at the ceiling over them, eyes roaming across the blank stone.
It looks like it hasn't been opened in a really long time, he commented.
Spectre rushed forward from between them and touched the door with the palms of both hands. His eyes glowed purple as he caressed the heavy stone.
"Oh, it feels so lonely,"
he whispered.
"This door used to greet guests every day. Then, all at once, they stopped coming."
Finley's ears rotated one way and then the other, curiously.
Can you tell what happened? He asked. Why they stopped coming?
Spectre frowned as he concentrated, reading something in the material that only he could see.
"They asked too often to see her face, but she wouldn't show them. Her shame drove them away."
He took a step back as the door let out a low moan, stretching inwards into the warm glow beyond. The paint that had sealed it at the top cracked and rained down on them in pale splinters. Inside was a sea of colorful glass lights. Hanging high on the ceiling, they looked just like the night sky, cast against the navy paintwork of the upper levels. Images of flowers and water adorned the walls. Pictures drawn by both talented artists and children alike took pride of place amongst the offerings. Small painted handprints lined the bottom half of the walls, reminiscent of a primary school classroom, and everything twinkled with affection under the glow of the artificial stars.
"Oh, wow,"
Finley breathed, slowing down to survey the space around them.
"This place is really beautiful."
Scrappy leaned close to one of the walls, a soft smile on their face.
"Children did these," they noted,
and then straightened.
"This temple used to be really loved. What made her turn all these people away?"
"Her face was that of a dead woman in the light,"
Spectre noted.
"She was afraid to turn their joy to terror, just like she had with their parents. She thought it would be better if the children never saw that she was all alone inside."
"That's so sad," Scrappy commented,
reaching out to trace a hand across one of the children's handprints on the wall. They seemed so much smaller than their own hand.
I can't even imagine what it must have felt like to lose all of this.
And I would never want you to, young Amorini. Scrappy's ever-present sunglasses reflected the false starlight as they lifted their head towards the voice. Dressed in soft gray fabric, a woman began to descend into the chamber from the upper levels, her hand caressing the banister as she walked. A thin, graying veil covered her from head to chest, golden accessories fashioning it to her long waves of dark hair. Beads hung around her forehead, twinkling in the lights from above, and golden bangles adorned her slender, olive-skinned arms.
Lady Tacita,
Scrappy breathed, bowing their head respectfully.
The goddess of silence,
Finley whispered, wide-eyed as she approached them. The goddess moved with a gentle elegance, like the way a swan would land on the surface of the water. Her small white heels clicked on the stone, and every part of her radiated with light and energy. It was hard to imagine such a spirit being capable of the kind of harm that the dead of Hades suspected. She stopped in front of him, taller but only by a few inches, and she bowed her head in greeting. He mimicked the motion, his tail wagging with interest behind him.
It's a pleasure to meet you, my lady,
he said. Somewhere beneath the veil, he sensed that she was smiling. It is nice to have guests again, she responded softly, her voice like that of a gentle brook, bubbling as it coursed over a valley of small, round rocks. To what do I owe this unexpected visit?
We've come from the in-between, Lady Tacita,
Scrappy explained, coming forward to stand at the goddess's side.
We wanted to speak to you about your spell of silence, the one we used to hide the Grimms and Amorini from the living.
Ah, yes, the woman acknowledged. It has been a great many years, but I remember it well.
I'm not sure how well news travels this far down, my lady, but we have discovered that there is a new type of hollow, one that can wipe out both gods and the other spirits of the in-between,
Finley explained.
We've come in search of a much stronger spell.
The goddess drew back slightly, her right hand twitching up towards her veil. A new hollow? After all this time? How is that possible? The dark-skinned Amorini lowered their head.
Maka, one of the daughters of Dawn, fell to the corruptors. She was tainted.
The goddess shifted her weight from one foot to the other. If the guardians of the gate can fall, what hope is there? She breathed.
We were hoping you could craft a new spell, Finley pressed. Something stronger, more than just tricks. We need real power, power that can give us the upper hand again.
Tacita tilted her head away. I am afraid that you have wasted a trip. She turned back the way that she had come, pulling her dress tightly around her tiny body. I cannot help you.
No,
Finley interjected, his voice breaking on the edge of her words.
You won't just push us away like the others. We can't leave without your help.
Finn, Scrappy urged, clenching their jaw tightly. Tacita froze in place, tensed with anger. Do not pretend that you know what I have been through, little spirit." Her tone was a simmering heat, threatening to boil over. "I was alive a millennia before you even became a concept." "We know that you've been hurting, all alone in this place," Finley continued, motioning his hands animatedly as he spoke, following her as she began to stalk across the vast marble floor. "But you can't just seal yourself away for all eternity like this."
A pain like a mother who has lost her children. A weakness you must use to strengthen your walls. You cannot bear to feel their eyes on you, lost in the fever of their fear,"
Spectre whispered as he read her. Tacita angled her head to look back at them over one shoulder. Through the thin material of the veil, he could just about make out the curve of a skull, the dark spaces where her eyes were. "I did what was right," she said. "I would rather that they thought I didn't love them than for them to fear me as the others do."
"But it still hurts you to lose them," Finley argued. "So what difference does it make?"
The goddess sighed. "Oh, this place is a temple of silence. Children's laughter does not belong here any more than a weed belongs in Hades' perfect garden."
"Says who?"
Finley argued.
"You're a goddess. If you don't control this realm, then who does?"
"No one worships by my stones anymore," she countered, her tone flat with acceptance. "My power is not what it once was."
"So you feel that you deserve an eternity of punishment instead?"
Finley carried on, edging closer to her.
"Look at you, feeling sorry for yourself, hiding in the dark. You could have made a difference if you weren't such a coward." Ugh!
He sensed her power before he felt it, like his words were turned sideways and jammed into the sides of his throat. An invisible hand pushed down against his windpipe, and his mouth hung open in surprise. Scrambling against the hold, Finley could do nothing but gag helplessly. His tongue was held in a vice, immobile.
"Do not test me, Amarini!"
His green eyes narrowed towards hers defiantly, and he wrinkled his nose in protest, his tail lashing out in angry circles. Spectre leapt between them with glowing eyes, throwing both of his hands into the air.
"Put him down!"
he demanded. Her grip loosened and fell away, and Finley collapsed to the floor at his companion's feet. He cleared his throat roughly as Spectre pulled him to a sitting position, whispering calming phrases in his ear.
"You are mere children,"
Tacita hissed, her voice tight.
"At 1/10 of my suffering, you would have begged for the void. Not I. I endure."
"Miss Tacita?"
The voice was small and quiet, filtering through from the still opened door behind them. The goddess hesitated, dropping both her hands to her sides as she froze in place. Scrappy turned to look back at the entranceway as they stepped closer to the other Amarini protectively. The door stood ajar where it had not fully closed behind them, and the form of a young girl was standing in the sunlight behind it, her hands holding tightly to the stone. Her hair was light as honey, braided lovingly around the sides of her face. She couldn't have been more than 6 or 7. Unlike the other ghosts of the afterlife, she was dressed all in white, a sleeveless dress covering her tiny form. Another head appeared next to hers, belonging to another child of a similar age. The boy was dark-skinned with a puff of black hair, dressed in a blue silk shirt and trousers. He looked inside nervously, his expression more guarded than that of the girl.
"Is it okay if we come in and play with you again?"
the little girl asked as they slipped inside.
"We saw your door was open."
The goddess allowed herself to glance back at them, the previous anger in her body language evaporating. From behind the cover of the veil, Finley heard her almost silent intake of breath.
"See? They still want to come and see you,"
Finley soothed, setting his own anger aside as well.
"You don't have to be alone. They're not children anymore. They're spirits, just like you are. They'll understand."
"But what if they see me and they leave?" Tacita whimpered.
"I don't think they will,"
Scrappy said knowingly, as they reached out and took the woman's hand in their own.
"Come on, let them see you."
The goddess stepped out into the lamplight, the blues and purples washing over her like a magic spell. She reached to either side of her veil and raised it with shaking hands, and the bleached white bone beneath twinkled as surely as any of her jewelry did. The boy was the first to bound forward, and she knelt to meet his inquisitive hands, feeling the tiny fingers as they caressed the bones of her face. "You are not afraid of me?" she asked.
"I think skulls are cool."
The boy grinned brightly. He was missing one tooth in the bottom row, a charming detail of his face. The girl appeared at his side, looking up at her in amazement.
"Is this why you wouldn't let us come play with you?"
she questioned wisely. Tacita nodded slowly, ribbons of her dark hair falling around her face. The little girl wrinkled her nose.
"That's silly,"
she said. Relief made tears fall from the corner of the goddess's ebony eye sockets, and her bones erected themselves into a smile. "It is," she agreed. "It is very silly." When she stood, she eyed up the 3 cat spirits in front of her, reaching into her pockets to pull out a key from inside. "All right," she relented. "I have one final spell that may be able to help you. Come with me, and don't touch anything." To be continued in Chapter 27.